Good day. It's time for your daily devotional. So we're here at around 1 o'clock Atlantic Standard Time. And of course, that's my target time. And then just working these in. Of course, you can view them whenever you want to, but that's my target time on Tuesdays or Fridays. So here we are doing that today. We're working our way through Proverbs verse by verse, and today we're in verse 24. And I'd just like to give context each time in case you didn't watch the previous video or whatever. So the context today for this is just to remind you that in the first chapter of Proverbs, as we work our way through this, we've come to a section of that chapter where what we're doing is we're hearing a poetic expression of some of the wisdom of the book, which is this idea of wisdom being personified as this woman calling out to us. She's in this busy street. She's yelling out and calling, come to me, come to me. So this section of that chapter. So what we're reading in these verses is her saying these things to us. So we've gone through a couple of them. We're now in verse 24. And today's verse and tomorrow's verse 25, are a couplet. By that, what I mean is it kind of says the same thing, slightly different. And that's often the case in the Proverbs. There's an idea that's said twice in slightly different ways. They're meant to go together. So tomorrow I'll refer back to today probably. Anyways, I'm going to read it, and then let's just take a look at what we can glean from this. So verse 24 of Proverbs chapter 1. Because I called and you refused, I stretched out my hand and no one paid attention. Now she goes on to say what happens because of this. But here she is saying to us, because I called, right? Wisdom called, and you refused. I plugged my ear. I didn't listen, right? I refused. I stretched out my hand, she said. So she's there in the street, stretching out her hand, and no one paid attention to her doing this. And so this is the idea, and why it results in this kind of unfortunate state for the person who remains foolish. This verse and the one tomorrow are going to talk about sort of two sides of a coin of this idea of inattention today, and we'll talk about neglect tomorrow, but inattention, not paying attention. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit today, and as we look at this. So this idea of inattention, a lot of the foolish decisions we make in life, things that lack wisdom, can be traced back to some place in our life where we just simply didn't pay attention to things, that things we needed to pay attention to, and that inattention to a thing or to the wise voice in our head, or that good angel sitting on our shoulder saying, do this, and we don't pay attention to that inattention so often results in our having very unfortunate consequences in our life, and we end up walking into very foolish places. This whole piece of the scripture is around that image of wisdom being in a noisy street. And if you think about the noisy street and the woman calling out, there's all kinds of distractions, right? There's all these other voices, all this business, all this stuff going on. And you can almost think kind of like a Where's Waldo thing, is like there's someone in there that you need to pay attention to, but you kind of can lose it in the crowd of everything that's happening. And so is life. In life, there's all these things happening to us, all the stuff going on around us. Every day is full of a million things. Speaking a little exaggerated, but there's dozens and dozens of decisions you will probably have to make in a day. Some small, some very big, and all of that is happening in the middle of all kinds of things, especially in our time. All kinds of things trying to grab your attention and take your attention. But only a part of your attention. They want you to pay attention just enough so that they can influence your decision, but not think about it too deeply, because they want to influence you. And the world's just full of it. It's just quite a thing. So that makes it tricky to make good decisions in life because of all the distractions and the things that cause us to not pay attention. There's this famous video. You can go look it up here on YouTube. It's this famous video of these people playing this basketball game. You're supposed to count the number of times they pass the ball back and forth. And because you're so focused on the ball going back and forth, you don't realize a person in a gorilla costume comes in the middle and does all this stuff and goes out. And you don't even notice it. And afterwards, when the person says, did you notice the gorilla? You're like, there was no gorilla. And you go back and look at the video you just watched, and you're like, yeah, there was a gorilla. How did I miss that? And that's how it can be in life. And with the things of wisdom, too, it can be like that. So this is wisdom saying this to us. You didn't pay attention. So our 4 questions today. The first one is this: is this what I'm talking about here? This idea of being aware or having awareness. I use this term sometimes, situational awareness, right? Being aware of the situation you're in, or what's going on around you, or what's happening in life. Is this the same as mindfulness? And we hear this term today of mindfulness and being mindful, and it became quite a trend for a while. There was a lot of people kind of going into this kind of idea of mindfulness. Is this the same as that? Is that what I'm talking about? And I would say, no, it's not. It kind of is in some ways, but not entirely. What mindfulness is when people kind of go down that road, they're usually talking about being mindful of yourself, right? Being mindful of my feelings on something, being mindful of why I'm doing what I'm doing, or being mindful of my actions or my space or whatever. And mindfulness is generally a very self-focused thing, like what's going on here, being mindful. And there's a value to that. There's a real importance actually to being very self-aware and being very, being cognizant of why you're doing what you're doing and all that. So it's very important. It's a good thing. But there's a danger in mindfulness. If all we do is kind of go down the mindfulness road, then what can happen is we can become very self-centered, right? We become the center of our world, and everything is about us. And there's a you kind of will think of yourself as the answer to everything, and you become wisdom to yourself. And instead of wisdom being in the street calling to you, you will tend to think, I am my own wisdom. I can draw out of myself better understanding. So there's a little danger there, but it's valuable. What we're talking about here is actually a little beyond that. It's not just being aware of self, it's being aware of everything else as well. There's an attention to the world, the situation you're in, that needs to happen as well. It's being more aware and thinking out more about what's going on in your life and what's happening around you. So question 2 is, well, how can a person be more aware? Is that really even a thing? Like, it seems funny to say, look and see more, right? Or hear more. Like, well, don't you just hear what you hear? Don't you just see what you see? Isn't that the way it works? And but it's not. It's interesting how you can not see. So Jesus used to use this phrase, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. So there's this idea that you can have ears and yet not hear. It's funny, but it's true. Pastor Chris, my associate here at Lifesong, he and I were driving the other day, and he was like, "Oh, there's a deer over there, and oh, there's another one over here." And I always thought of myself as having really good attention. I could see deer on the road, but he's incredible. Like, he sees the smallest movement and the smallest shape of a deer. Now, he's a hunter; he loves that stuff, but he is really attuned to it. And it's like that, right? Like, you can be driving past a dozen deer as you go down the highway here in Nova Scotia, at least, and never see them. But a person who's attentive will notice that, because they become attuned and they're paying attention for it, and he sees it, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about here: the ability to attend and to pay attention to the things of life and the things around you and so on. Or like in hockey, they talk about, going along with the puck and not just focusing on the puck, but being able to keep your head up and see what's going on around you. Where's your teammates, or when you're driving and they say, don't just look at right in front of the car, but look down the road where you're going. What's happening around you? Where's the other drivers? Or when you're playing chess, right? Don't just think of the next move, think about 3 or 4 moves down the road, right? And it's that idea of being able to teach yourself to look beyond what's just right here, right? What's happening right here. In fact, mindfulness, right? Just looking at self is not enough. We need to look beyond ourselves, and we need to not just focus on what we want, what we feel, but everything around us. Now that's a big task. And this isn't to be confused with question 3. Isn't focus really important? The ability to focus in on something, doesn't that make us more powerful? And it does. I mean, the ability to focus your energy to something, bringing your strength to bear on something, is very powerful, and it's a good thing in life. But what wisdom does is it doesn't just say, just go there and focus on whatever you want. It says, let's find the right place to focus. So yeah, a person in a fight focusing all their energy into a fist, yeah, that'll be a much more powerful punch. They focus their energy. But if they just do that in whatever direction at all, they're not going to win the fight, because what wisdom does is focus, yes, but focus in the right place. And so we learn to pay attention to the situation so that we can bring our focus where it needs to be. The idea of a sniper, in the military, a sniper is looking through that scope and he can shoot very far, very accurately because he's focused. But if he doesn't have a spotter next to him telling him, yeah, you need to aim over here or over there, so that the spotter sees the whole situation and tells him where to point that gun. Well, it's like that, right? We in our lives can bring ourselves to focus on things, but wisdom helps us know where to focus, right? So it's really important. Question 4, trying to pay attention to everything like that sounds exhausting. Isn't it just totally exhausting? And the answer to that is, yeah, it can be. It can be tiring to always have to have yourself engaged and always be trying to pay attention. But I'll encourage you in this, that as you do it, you actually get better at doing it, and it becomes less exhausting over a life of practicing paying attention to what's going on. It starts to become habitual, and then it's not as exhausting. What you start to learn as God teaches you wisdom, what you start to learn as you practice this is how to become selective in what you focus on, right? It's not exhausting to see, but if you're trying to put focus into everything you see, that's exhausting. Instead, what we learn with wisdom is how to pay attention, to go deeper, to think about what's happening, to see and learn. And then we can learn to disregard things I don't need to put a lot of energy into, and I can then focus. And so it actually becomes less exhausting with practice. What we're talking about is not just noticing things, right? Not just noticing, but learning how to go deeper in things. And so when you watch a television show, not just letting it wash over you, but being able to look at the show and go, what is being said here to me? What am I learning here today? What's going on? What's this message? And is it affecting my life? There's a deeperness there, paying attention to, rather than just letting the show wash into your life, or you're involved in a conversation. Someone says something to you, but not just going, how does that affect me? But thinking about what they're saying and what am I really understanding what this person is trying to say to me? Otherwise, I just hear tone or body language and I don't pay attention to what they're saying. And as you grow in this, you become better at it, and it gets less exhausting because you're able to funnel out and filter out all the stuff that doesn't matter. And you learn how to actively think and actively engage with the world as it's happening around you. And it makes you wiser. Without that, you will tend to feel your way through life, and it ends up in all these disasters. And so then when wisdom is calling in the busy, noisy street, all you hear is the busy, noisy street. And as you learn and you grow to become a critical, active thinker, then you learn how to filter through the noise of life to hear wisdom in the situations that you find yourself in. So, so the lesson today, in a nutshell, is learn to pay attention. Learning to control your mind so you're not distracted by every little thing, so that you can pay attention and filter out and assess and learn and grow. And that's how wisdom grows in your life. Anyways, think about that and dwell on that a bit as you go through your day today. If you're using this devotional that way, Lord, we'll pray right now. Lord, help us, I pray, to be better at paying attention to the world around us, to the things, to being an active thinker. Increase our wisdom this way, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless. God willing, I'll see you again tomorrow for verse 25. Have a good day.